Hey guys, welcome to Carrier Battles. It's this really interesting game by Avalon Digital. I'm doing not so much a first look as much as a review of my first impressions of the game along some gameplay. Because I played it for a few hours to get the gist of it, because I hate watching people stumble around with no idea what things are doing. Well, it's this really interesting game, and so some quick basic info about it. If you wind up being so enthralled by it, you just gotta go out and buy it right now. Gotta wait till June 5th. I know. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be chomping at the bit for it. You can't wait for June 5th. It is a great game. I don't know if you all know this, but I actually wrote my thesis on this topic specifically, carrier warfare in World War II. So I know, not to toot my own horn, but I know quite a good deal about these ships, why they're built, how they're, maybe not exactly how they're constructed, but why they're constructed, and the sort of doctrinal thoughts that went into using them. So I was very excited to see a new game try this. If you've been on my channel for a while, you would have seen my playthrough of a couple scenarios from Carriers at War. A game like this, I think this one's better. I'll say that up front. And I'll also say this. I got this game from the Avalon Digital Studios PR department as a review copy to review and post a video of it on my channel. So this is technically paid content, I guess. This is the payment. So if that offends you, I'll throw myself into a vat of lava or something. Without further ado, let's hop into a scenario. I'll play the US. You can play the Japanese in the scenarios, and they're all rather fun. Prepare to get your butt kicked if you don't know a lot about carrier warfare. At first. But I'd say the learning period takes about hour to an hour and a half. Not including the tutorials. So the tutorials are 2 20-minute affairs if you read every document and look at all the pages and watch every video. But the actual game, learning to play it, and playing the AI probably take you about an hour and a half to learn to be competent. So when a scenario starts off, you get a scenario info screen, and it will roughly tell you a few things. The first is what you read at the beginning, the scenario description. And your general objective, it'll be based on your side. So the Japanese want to land at Guadalcanal in Port Moresby. We want to put them in the water. We have 3 days to put all the boats in the water. Well, hopefully. More likely, we're just going to put some boats. So let's hunt some big ones. Click on this button up here, and you'll see what is honestly just a very beautiful map of some of the most intense, one of the most intense carrier battlefields of the war. What's really interesting here is you have the, to give you the rough strategic map, you have this sort of Australian supply chain running down here, and the very southeastern border of the Japanese thrust. At this point in time, the Japanese would actually be doing the Coral Sea operation, where they're trying to swing down from the Bismarck Sea in their conquest to New Britain and outflank the defenders of New Guinea around these mountain range by taking Port Moresby, giving them a decent jumping-off point into Australia if need be, or more likely a very solid defensive line. As you can see, the supply lines for getting across the Coral Sea are much longer and therefore much more prone to interdiction, attack, and, I don't know, angry staff sergeants creatively commandeering things in the high seas. Than if they held New Guinea. If you hold New Guinea, then the whole thing has a bit of a wrench in it. And you can see many interesting, like the Santa Cruz Islands, the New Hebrides, the Solomons, of course Rabaul and New Britain. Rabaul being stationed at New Britain. I think it's this northern one. Yeah, major naval base. And very good sound effects too, I must say. Very happy with them all. So let's get down to brass tacks. I'm going to start off, like I always did in a carrier war, with the land units. So click on a thing, brings it up. To kill an enemy, you must have an enemy, and to have an enemy, you must know they exist. So we're going to go into the search dialog here, and you can run 5 missions concurrently for any airfield. You can run 2 strikes against 2 different targets or the same target at different times. We'll get into that, trust me. You have CAP, which is Combat Air Patrol, which is... they're fighter planes. They fly around up top. The pilots have a good time smoking cigars and shooting down enemy aircraft. They get too close. And search aircraft, which are dive bombers, are lucky enough to be told to go patrol the ocean on their own, and if they see a bunch of ships, get real close, but don't get shot. So for the search dialogues here, we're going to click on this, and it'll let us activate the search dialogue in a way that we can manipulate it. And the tooltips are very self-explanatory. So I'm going to set this so that we search north and east. Well, maybe I'm going to set us to search, like... I don't want to miss anything. So now I'm going to go back and check if that hex makes sense. I'll look at it. I want to check a little bit up and a little bit down. So like that. And yeah, that makes sense. That'll cover pretty much the entire Solomon Sea and those portions south of New Britain. And we know the Japanese fleet is somewhere out here in the Solomons and New Britain. So now that we've got that squared away, let's get some guys flying the recon we've assigned. So down here we will have our three options. This moves people by number. It's very good when you're trying to get an efficient carrier strike setup. This moves people one at a time. It's very good when you want to move people one at a time. And this moves full stacks, which is good when you want to do something like assign every B-25 to go look for something. And all the A-29s. We'll throw the P-40s on cap, along with two P-39s. And these SBDs and these P-39s. I'll put those P-39s on escort. And here, here I'll show you the strike dialogue. So when you first organize something, first off you can click on these to see when these are going to be activated. And so essentially in 80 minutes, these fighters will be online for combat air patrol. And what that represents is either the squadrons, of course, taking off in, what's it called? Not tandem, but at intervals. Or sometimes just the planes sort of gradually filtering up into the sky. If you're, say, launching two carrier raids combined, so two carriers in a single task force launching their planes, they'll mill around, get to know each other. It's kind of like a mingling party full of guns. Over here, you see, it's going to take us more than 3 hours to strike a target. That's because we don't have a target assigned. We'll click on the big danger icon, and it'll tell us to point our stuff at their thing. And we'll come here. This is our target dialogue. And we're going to go for single... So first, the most important thing is the distance here, which is unchangeable for land units, because land units cannot move their airfields. Carriers, you can shorten distances and stuff by getting closer. And it's all very self-explanatory, really. They hit their time on target at 6:20, so if you want to be real careful, you can time it so that all your raids arrive at the same time, so you can have raids arrive from 3 different directions all at the same time, causing mass confusion, cats and dogs raining from the sky. And they'll be back at around 7:20 in the morning, just in time for breakfast. And 100% of them should have gas. So we'll go ahead and approve that. If we ever want to check it again, we can pull it up right here. No need to go back. And we can see that they are slated down here. I'm going to throw these guys on priority. I'm going to throw Combat Air Patrol on priority, because Combat Air Patrol is the highest priority in your life. Ever. And then we'll go down to Townsville. And Townsville is a prominent Australian airfield down here. Very important little area for many parts of history. And we'll throw our B-17s onto it. And, heck, we'll get the B-26s in on it also. Everyone else is going to be flying cap, because the Japanese can and will come down to Australia and bomb you. And you should just always be aware of stuff like that. If you want to protect Cairns, you can. It's worth mentioning that there are many alternate options for scenarios. You could have the... I think there's one where the Doolittle raid doesn't happen, and so the Enterprise and Hornet are here if you want to recreate the Battle of Midway with less Japanese carriers, more US carriers and stuff. One where the RAF believes that there's going to be Japanese carriers around here and prepares for it. I think these little dots are coast watchers, so if a Japanese force enters there, they'll see it because they're watching the coast. It might just represent areas where there are coast watchers. I'm not sure. Don't take my word for that. Anyway, but the meat of a game called carriers. Sorry, carrier battles. Let's get to the carriers. Down here we've got Task Force 11 and Task Force 17 being picketed by Task Force 44. Task Force 44 is a cruiser task force. They have what you might call... They're scout planes, and they'll launch automatically and go look for stuff automatically. I'm going to disable their autopilots right now because we're not moving anywhere. I think I'll move Task Force 17 someplace. Oh, and I should explain movement of task forces real quickly. You click and drag them to the green spot. It's that simple. There's nothing at all like Carriers of War where you have to click on them and it's a giant hex grid and stuff. This is... that little red dot is the number of moves you can make in an hour. And every hour is a phase, I think. And every phase is divided into... No, every 20 minutes is a phase. Every hour is a turn. You get those replenished in a thing. I'll be honest, I'm not too sure on the rules there. Once again, I've been playing for an hour and a half, so I'm not sure on the nuances, but I do know I can move them. Task Force 44 is good where they are. I want them out there as sort of a trip line. If something hits the Solomons over here, we will bust our butts on down there. But for now, let's go to our individual things. What was it? The Lexington was out front, I think it was. Task Force 11, Lexington. Click on it. And we'll go ahead and get... we'll get 2 SBDs on standby there, and we're going to consult something interesting here. This is our carrier jamming problem sort of area thing. This is the... what do you call it? It's sort of the traffic jam trying to operate a lot of aircraft. If we try and launch all of our aircraft at once, it'll take a long time. So instead, we're just going to launch some to most of our aircraft. And I like to leave 2 aircraft behind to escort the flights. And so that'll put us at 5. So we're operating now 5 out of 6 capacity. If we store anything on the deck, we can launch it faster, but it takes our capacity for a while. I don't see any reason to store anything on the deck since we can only store one thing on the deck anyway, and we'll leave these guys down here and we'll launch them with their 40-minute delay as per normal. Now, on to Task Force 17, the Yorktown. For these guys, I am going to get only 2 fighters up, once again leaving that 2 in reserve to escort the flight. But we have a setup of 8 aircraft that can be up. So with 2 there, and looking at them right now, I don't know if they will be able to search really as efficiently as these guys. So I'm going to get the Yorktown. The Yorktown's going to be my mobile asset. It's going to move real fast. And what I'm going to do is, well, those planes are searching, those planes are on cap. I'm going to have... 4 SBDs get set up for bombs, and these 2 F4s get set up for escort duty. So that if we spot anything close by, I can have bombs rolling off the deck in 20 minutes and on their way. And that's a very important part of American doctrine. Punch them first, punch them hard. And with the way they move 2 hexes a turn. By the time they get up, they'll be overflying Task Force 11, and Task Force 11 will launch their airplanes, all of them. They'll be coming off the deck hot and ready. And they'll go together. It'll be great. Probably. Alright, and so everything now is going to take about an hour to get set up, and so we'll click and hold here, click an hour. It'll play out. And you can see we've stored up a few moves there. And it's 5 o'clock, the start of more air operations. I'm going to move this task force under the cloud cover makes them harder to spot, you see. And we'll consult this. Oh, and this is the nice little log. It tells you, it typically gives you information and stuff like, in this one, don't get into surface battle with the Japanese, because their long lance torpedoes will just decimate you. The Japanese were masters of torpedo craft. One of the things they learned from World War I was how, not just how destructive a torpedo could be, but how good it could be at keeping a large fleet at bay, and really played into their strategy of large guns. And essentially the strategy was to keep large guns at a great distance from the enemy and hit you from too far. They were going to kite the enemy to death, and torpedoes were a great way to force the enemy to be kited. Anyway, so I'm just going to make sure that that cap is getting up real quick. Yep. Good there. Awesome. And one thing that I do really like is you can assign cap from one aircraft carrier to cover another. So there's a good reason to keep these task forces kind of close. I'd say within 2 hexes, but maybe within 3. That's about a 40-minute gap. If you spot the Japanese 3 hexes out, you can get your fighters over to that carrier by the time they hit, and practically double the amount of fighters you have on combat air patrol. It can lead to an absolutely brutal experience for a fighter strike to run into twice as many escorting fighters as there are for the carrier as there are for the escorts. Anyway, these little hexes you see are the first little spotting rays going out. And you can see these will gradually expand much quicker. These are very close to the combat. And here you can see a raid going out on Lei, and they move about 2 hexes per turn. What do we see? Ah, there we are. There's just a medium group, probably some transports up in the Solomon Islands. Could be some battleships. I'm not sure, but I think historically they're pretty much transports. Probably see a battle at Lai in the next thing. Right. So we'll move this guy this way, stay in support. No real cloud cover for them. We'll keep those guys there for now. And the float planes manage automatically. Oh, and you can't, I don't think you can modify that while it's in use. But I will modify it for the Yorktown so I don't forget. I don't really need to search this southern portion here. And I could probably increase the amount that I'm searching by shortening it, essentially. The planes would go faster. So now we'll see our airstrike at Lei. And here you can see the Japanese have 3 fighters on combat air patrol. We've got four of our escorting P-39 Airacobras. They're okay. They sort of match the A-5M. And there's 2 G-3M bombers on the ground that are subject to potential damage by our bombers. So we'll play it out, and the first thing that happens is the Japanese try and shoot down our bombers, and anti-aircraft fire happens. Nothing happened to our guys. And so our boys roll in. The P-39 strafe, the SBDs bomb. We lost an SBD. That's a shame. We might need him to defend that place. But we blew up a G-3M, and Lei's seen better days. And you can see a pretty good summary here. We did an air attack on an airbase, and some enemy fighters killed our thing. And you can review the battle again as many times as you like. So if you do a particularly devastating strike, you can get all that. And when this happens, you can, when your flight's return, you can click a landing alert, and it will give you a little alert down here that lets you know your planes have made it back. So you can put them on cap, send out another strike, congratulate them, slap them on the back, buy cigars, whatever. And you can also let this play out by an hour, and it will automatically stop. We have a warning. Ah, there it is. And that's our 5 units are landing here. And, yeah, here you can see that they are landing. And you can tell them, no, you can't land this phase, we're launching aircraft, and you just have to sit up there and deal with it, and they can say, "But we're running out of gas, sir," and you can grimace at them for mentioning the word gas in your presence, or something. Something that's such a precious resource. I don't know. Anyway, I have my fleet set up in a way that I'm pretty okay with right now. I think I'm going to wait one more turn. I want to find the Japanese first. See, I know where that is, but it's way too far out of range. And I'm sort of storing those points for the next turn. There we go. And now we can move our... Oh, well, whoops. We'll get another one next turn. And there, that'll keep our search planes out at the proper distance. There we go. Alright, those guys should be back down. I expect we'll get a retaliatory air raid at some point in time. And they will be none too happy about what we've done. I don't see any alerts so far. I think I'm going to put another SBD onto search. No. Seems like it would ruin the timing of the carrier a bit. Oh yeah, we're already operating a touch over. There they are. What spotted you? In Hex 33664. Okay, so these are the bombers from Port Moresby. Have spotted some transports and a task force. And now these might be shadowed. So we'll do our sort of standard movement. We'll move by from the bottom up because these guys are the least vulnerable. Ah, right on schedule. See who's on cap. Everyone. Oh, that's gonna suck for them. I don't think we're going to get much more intel on those, but we do know roughly where to look. So now we can set an autopilot that will... say we're head roughly towards here. And we should see a very interesting airstrike quite soon. Warning, Japanese airstrike. Yep. I like the little warnings to pop up. You gotta keep an eye out for them because they're blue and the ocean's blue. But otherwise they're pretty great. Alright, let's see how their airstrike does. We've got 7 planes on cap versus their 7 bombers. So yeah, pretty tough run for our guys there, actually. The G3M seemed to break through. Seems like our guys really pushed in on the G4Ms and a P-39 went down. But they don't have much left to hit us with. They hit the SBDs. But our flak got some of them. Not awful. Not great. Kind of a average sort of bomb run. Looks like they came over from Rabaul. SBDs are damaged, means they'll have to sit down there for a while. I'm gonna leave those guys up on cap for the rest of the day. in case I get another visit from the Japanese bomb ferry. And I believe the cruisers will automatically move towards their destination now. Yep. There they go. Oh, whoops. I almost forgot to set that. I want to set that a ratio to engage of 2 to 1 for surface combat. So unless they outnumber the enemy 2 to 1 with light cruisers, they're not going to bother. And you can see the searching starts again. All in all, it is very much a game of thinking ahead. You have to position yourself in the correct spot. And the game will punish you for being out of place. Not overly harshly, but to an extent that being ignorant of your mission is a detriment. I'm going to move this manually. I'm going to move it so that I center myself along this sort of axis right here. Probably right here. So that one searches the reefs over here, because these little red markers you can't pass through. Which is really useful if you, say, detect a Japanese fleet heading south towards Port Moresby here. It's probably going to run through here. And you can just set up everything so that you have it ready when they show up. But the autopilot is good if you want to, say, run the game on auto for an hour. And there we go. I think that's our search party landing. It is. Try and get 2 SPDs on that. Yeah, and they're coming back pretty much out of gas, flying to the maximum extent of their range. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give everyone their autopilot targets. The autopilot does currently seem to sort of auto-select whatever you pick. It can make things a bit difficult, but it's not terrible. And the game's not released yet, so some bugs do need to be ironed out. But the structure of the game is beautiful. Way better than some games I've seen. And definitely better than some carrier games I've seen. Carrier games are in very short supply. Oops, doesn't seem like that one's set. There we go. So now if I set it to run for, say, an hour, it'll do that, unless they detect something mind-boggling. Could do another strike on lay. It's under rainfall. There's no real reason to. And now you can see the real extent of the land-based scouting. One of the main reasons why attacking a land installation with a naval fleet is really freaking hard. I can just see the entire ocean. There's nothing they can do to stop it. Like, they're not... If they get through the Solomon Sea and all these reefs, they're not getting through the Gulf of Papua without being shadowed for days. Run it for another hour. Get some more searches out. Oh, hey, what's that? Enemy scouts spotted over Task Force 11. Oh, it's not great. And so now I'm going to reassign the cap from there to Task Force 11. They will fly from 15 to 1600, or to 1640. It's getting close close-ish to the end of the day. They might be unable to launch a strike with it being so late in the day. I'm uncomfortable with not having located the Japanese carriers yet. But I mean, we have pretty suitable cap coverage over these things. I mean, we've got 2 F4s. With it getting so late in the day, I think I'm going to launch the rest of my F4s. I don't think I'll be putting up a strike today. And so I'm going to get those F4s up, essentially, just in case I need them. Because if they're going to launch a strike, they're going to launch a strike now. And that strike will take a while to get here. But, I mean, they'd have to be really, really close to do that. Japanese airstrike incoming on Port Moresby. Get another... actually, pull those guys back in. We don't want them to be fueling while they're doing it because I think it can cause a critical hit that blows up more stuff. So we'll suffer the attack. Task Force 11 spotted that. Transport's here. Position update at 1600. So here's the airfield attack. We've got a lot less guys on cap than we used to. The P-40s are up, which is good. The P-40s are pretty deadly. So we knocked one G3M out, which is pretty okay. Those are also naval bombers, so it's always good to hit them pretty hard. That's real good. We knocked them back pretty hard there. And they didn't hit us too hard, I don't think. I don't think any of our planes got damaged because we kept them in their bunkers. Task Force 44. Task Force 44 is the cruisers. I'll have them wiggle south. They can probably just avoid an enemy air attack, to be honest. Besides, the enemy air attack launched now with about a 2-hour turnaround time, would arrive back home at around 2000. That's too dark for carrier operations. I mean, they can try, but they'll lose most of their planes to crashing into their own deck and nearly blow up their own carrier. I mean, they'll be more of a danger to themselves than my cruisers. But we'll change direction nonetheless. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to mention, like, these are ships that were there, and I always love seeing the ships that were there. Task Force 44, another scout. That's a B, and it's another thing to note is the type. With the E-13A, that's probably a cruiser launched plane, but the B-5N is definitely a carrier launched plane. So there's carriers out and about. I don't know where they are. So we're going to go to the 20 hex search. I'm going to search everything north of me. And I want to launch 2. About 1. I'm just going to clear the deck. We're not launching a strike today. Yeah. Crowding on the deck. Searches are up from there. Well, I doubt it's over here. I guess it could sneak behind us. But I don't think so. If we detect a raid coming from over here, we will definitely swing around. But that is a really odd angle to come at us from. Which is, of course, what makes it the perfect angle to come at us from. But, you know, you never know. So let's see. If they detected us here, we want to be out of their line of sight over there. There, the airstrike should sort of miss us now. Or it'll track us and we'll all die. Or the other. Ooh, what's, oops. Yeah, they're still following us around. Now we'll keep finagling it. They have to go home eventually. The Japanese are better at night operations. I don't think it's represented in the game, but they were very much more practiced in night operations. So I really want to launch a strike. And so now I believe it's nighttime. And everyone's sort of retiring back. All the cap fighters are landing. Which I think you can also see here. They're all coming down. There's no more problems or anything. Yeah, the carrier decks are shut down for the night. I think you might be able to launch a strike. No, you can't launch anything at night. Okay. And so now we can... Now we can set where we want our guys to go to start the next morning. If they're off to our east, they're already sort of out of place. And so I don't mind letting them make that as a mistake. I'm going to put the cruisers... Actually, I'm going to leave the cruisers where they are. They're in a decent enough spot that the Japanese come down the slot and come this way. They won't be kicked. And I'm going to move the carriers to a supported position that's still picketed by them. In such a way that I can swing this guy forward real fast. And we'll just... we'll just jump forward 12 hours and it'll stop at dawn. Well, hold on. I want to plan the morning's air operations first. That's right. So, Port Moresby will be... Oops. Hangar shut down. Alright. Well, we'll just jump ahead 12 hours, and you can see they'll move and... Oh. Transports got through. Alright, well. Bad news for us. However, it's midnight. I can't do much about it. There it is, 4 in the morning. Start of air operations. We'll get the B-25s up on search. P-39s on cap. And the SPD can just sit there. Actually, he's a cap fighter too. I think about it, actually. We killed most of the bombers coming over. 4 escorts. They're, oddly enough, just as effective. And we will strike over here again. Make it a morning routine. Townsville will... Once again, some more searches. Oop, I've left the thing open. Get our cap flights up. And let's see, Task Force 17. I'm sort of thinking here. Alright, I want the Lexington to search in that direction. I want 3 fighters on cap. Two SPDs out there. That'll be executed at daylight. Yorktown is going to search essentially the opposite direction. For their fighters, I'm going to launch 3 for a cap also, with the intention being that some will sort of skedaddle on up to the others. To Task Force 11 if they run into problems. Task Force 44 is just kind of going to be sitting there out in the wind for a little while. And we'll put 2 SPDs on it as well. And we'll see if we can't get some sort of combat going today. If we can't find the enemy. Go ahead and turn the autopilot off. Task Force 44 is going to move over into cloud cover, just to make it a little bit harder for the Japanese to spot him. Similar for Task Force 11. Task Force 17 just ain't that far away. But I'll move them up as well, like that, and now they're sort of mutually supporting. It's 1 turn away from them. They're very close, just sort of just out of sight of a strike group that might hit one. It won't see the other. But if we get any sort of prior warning, we will see him coming. The Japanese should be coming down the slot today. Oh, and here's the airfield attack. Oh good, nothing's up. Boom. There goes the Air Force at Leh. So that's nice. We've neutralized that airbase. Should give Port Moresby a little bit of breathing room. I want to know when they land. Mostly so I can set all those guys back to cap. Because the morning raid is a good thing. And we'll just go for... We'll just go until something happens, really. Or until 9 in the morning. Task Force 11. It's definitely a cruiser-based scout. Task Force 44 has been spotted by something naval. We will stay where we are for now. Hey, there's something. Six air units, okay. 17. There's the battleships. Okay, that's all right. We can launch a strike on them there. We know they're sort of stuck in there. They managed to almost sneak through the slot. I really hope those scouts don't turn up telling me there's a bunch of stuff over here. That would be bad. All right. Okay. Let's get a strike set up. with the surface force, it's 12, distance of 12, airstrike launched in a single wave. Okay, so this is going to be priority 1. It's a distance of 12. Those guys can actually make it. How long would it take for me to do that? An hour? We could do a full commitment strike here. And this is a nice little air attack tasking thing that I really, really wanted in Carriers at War. Because in Carriers at War, the aircraft selected their own targets, which meant sometimes dive bombers would just really focus on this one annoying destroyer, and you would just strike a carrier force, and then they never struck carriers. This is essentially saying that there are 3 ways to distribute damage. The first is hit everything. If I'm saying I'm hitting a transport group, that's what you want to pick, because you don't want to send all 12 of your SBDs to slam into a transport. If you're hitting a carrier group, you go compact. They'll pick the most important target, and it's this is essentially how it's weighted. So how many life points it has, plus 2 against a carrier, plus 1 for each point of light AA. So carrier with 4 health is going to get, what, like 8 bombers assigned to it, and each one's a flight of 4, so it's a lot of bombers. And of course there's random, which is just, it's a just hit it sort of solution, and sometimes that's what you need. So we're a little bit overworked at 10, but I'm gonna say it's fine. I don't want that surface fleet getting through. Task Force 11 is good right now. But they're about to get really overworked. I'm gonna put the cap up. They're gonna run cap for the fleet right now. As it is right now, that's sort of a 1, 2, 3. It's kind of a maximum range strike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are both sitting at maximum air range, so that's kind of the range you should expect to engage the enemy at. So I'm actually going to push this guy up like that a bit and see if I can't get some better scouting data. That's nerve-wracking. Is that strike I have planned still doable? Okay, now that the strike has landed here, it is possible they're just moving too fast. I might have beaten myself by not going fast enough to get in the way. Well, let's see how it goes. Shit. That's a lot of carriers. They probably have a cap up. We don't have any cap to spare. One of the cap flights got destroyed by the Japanese. The carrier's there. The carrier's well within striking range, and we're trying to launch a strike against a bunch of things. We'll just swap targets. The strike's already prepping. It's sort of still forming, so we still can tell them what to do. Task Force 11 will just kind of sit there. I'll get 17 to form up into clouds. And we'll hope we can at least get a carrier. Or 2. Take those guys off that. Scouts know right where we are. It is troubling. There's the transports. Alright, let's see. There we go. We're gonna hit something. Transports are medium transport squadron. I just don't think we're in the way enough. Let's hit that CV anyway. See what it does. It's a CVL. We have less escorts than them, but we're gonna take a bit of a pounding. I don't expect the TBDs to do too well. Okay, yeah, TBD destroyed an SBD. I'll take it. Put her down. A damaged SBD, a destroyed TBD, and one really messed up carrier light. How'd we do? Naval battle on Hex 4566. Hit by 5 bombs. Yeah, that guy's gone down. I'd like to know. Alright, they're doing fine right now. Oh, this is gonna be painful. But those are the main fleet carriers. I have to hit them. And I've only got the Lexington. That was the wrong carrier group. I launched on the wrong carrier group. Whoops. I forgot to set up the cap. Shoot. And that's more my fault. The game gives you adequate knowledge of it, and some of you may have even seen me forget to do it. Like I said, I'm still kind of new to it. This is gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. Didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. Those have shifted in their intelligence on it. I want those scouts out again. I don't want these guys just getting closer all the time. Task Force 11's being attacked by an airstrike. Alright. That's not good. We got a lot of guys fueling on the deck. Well, they're just about to get up. Take them 40 minutes to get down. This will be a... Oh. That's nice. It's just 4 dive bombers. Yeah, they didn't even make it through the fighter screen. And our strike got off. We got planes landing. Just enough cap in the air right now. Task Force 17, I want to send 3 extra planes right now. Just get over there. And we'll see if they can't beat the Japanese to it. What? Oh, they juked me. Darn it. Shoot. Recall that flight. Move those as close together as we can, just to get them in there as fast as possible. I don't think there's nothing too bad on the deck, but it is kind of defenseless right now. Oh boy, it's gonna hurt. Oh, that did nothing. Okay, so let's see. We destroyed a B-5 in Kate torpedo bomber. Damaged another one. The dive bombers got away. But the Lexington's flight deck is now inoperable. What happened to her? 2 torpedoes and 5 bombs. Listing due to flooding, damaged flight deck, propulsion, service capacity on the deck destroyed, 2 elevators damaged out of 2, AA5. They got hit, essentially. They got real hit. And that's one thing I love about this, is the detailed damage system. I don't just note the carrier's bad shape. The deck's not just on fire. No. There's a hole. The flight deck's got a hole. The ship's got a hole. The engine, it's got its own hole. The service crews, they've been blown up due to all the holes that have suddenly appeared. And the elevators, we don't need them. We have 2 holes now. There's a total of like 7 critical holes in my big boat that doesn't need any holes. And someone shot at the Alwyn for some reason. That's gotta be a problem. Maybe. Anyway, we might send those guys back to a different carrier. Hit them hard, boys. Alright, but now that they've shot theirs, let's shoot ours. This mission is a length 12. And I'm just gonna pull bombers off until we get back down to 40. There we go. We are at... There's no way that's that many ships. Go ahead and kick ourselves out again. Those F4s have to come down. Lexington's just going to be out of cap for a while. Can anyone cap the Lexington, please? Can't just send in another unescorted flight. Kind of out of cap for the time being. Well, let's just cross our fingers and hope the Lexington puts it all back together. You can see them sort of racing to get back to the carrier. I don't think there's any secret who's where now. Everyone's sort of getting started up for that. They've aborted. Oop, no, don't make that repeat. I should make those repeat missions for the carriers until I spot something. Okay, what's... What else is wrong? Maybe it'll swing in and hit Task Force 11. I know we're about to hit our carrier group. Those are cruisers. This is not a good day for the U.S. Navy. Please, someone make it through. Someone made it through. That should slow him down a bit at least. What did we get? Hit by a bomb. Hit by 3 bombs, major fire. I'll take it. Okay. Gotta get that cruiser closer. Or that carrier closer. We've got something up. There's a B5 and 2 down. Now it's just the 83As. Cross your fingers. How do we do? Nothing from this one, I think. We knocked down a D3A from Fleck. The F4 got damaged, but I don't think the Lexington took any more hits. That old Cal might make it. Those guys are about to run out of juice. We are going to be running on... not running on fumes, we're running on hopes, dreams, and tears at this point. I can divert them to Task Force 17. Is to Lexington? No, okay. Task Force 17. 2 of those guys are just going to go down due to fuel starvation. 4 of them are going to be fine due to fuel for starvation. 4 of them are going to run a 10% chance of dying. 2 of them are going to just go down. No, it's a 70% chance, I think. It's a bad percent chance. We'll just put it there. It is a... oh, shoot. The entire carrier component of the Lexington is in the air right now. Percent chance. That's not right. There is no one in a land hex. Who is landing? Well, we may yet save them. Yes, they made it in. Not with a lot. That may be enough. They hit 1 carrier and they hit it real hard. Good job, boys. What do we do? Not really numbers I'm looking for. Lost a TBD. No real surprise there. Well, it's damaged, actually. It's not even done. Hit the CV pretty hard. It's definitely not out for the count. That flight deck is still operational. That's not good. This is kind of a pickle. Well, it's also 1 in the morning. So I'm going to have to let you all go here. This has been kind of a first look at it, and I hope you all find this entertaining. I mean, the AI is good. It can play the game. I mean, I understand carrier warfare in this time period fairly well, I would say. And while I have a few very detailed things I could say about it that you might change in the game, I don't know if they'd be actually fair. What I can say is the game is very good at emphasizing the you have to find them and hit them first aspect, and don't get hit with your planes on the deck, or correction, with your planes arming. It introduces very similar dilemmas to those faced by commanders in the period. You will feel the similar stress and strain of the decisions will rest on your decisions, essentially. Like, where do I put this cruiser over here? Am I going to get too close to them? If I sit here, I can see them if they come close, but when my cruiser gets slapped off by the Yamato, how do I deal with this? Do I just ignore them landing on Guadalcanal? Which I did. I probably should have run my carriers over here in the night and intercepted them along this way. But that's what I like about it. It's one of those games where you can look back and see how it is. And for that, it's a very, very good game. I highly recommend it. Thank you once again to Avalon Digital for sending me a code. I'm forever grateful. I'll definitely make more videos like this where I just play a mission. God knows I love this. I've played about half of it now. And I'd like to come back and do a much better job. But you can see it I love the air battles, to control the carriers, it's all just very good. It's very, very well made. I can't wait to play Midway. I'll leave it there. I'll see you all next time. I've been Tomatow. Thank you very much.